Hey, what's happening, my fearless networking friend? Todd Falcone here. Welcome back to another episode in this series where we're talking about achieving prospecting mastery. So hopefully you have a chance to, it's pretty obvious if you're on my YouTube channel or my blog or if you're on my podcast, you're going to see how these are labeled so you can kind of go through each one of these episodes. If you achieving this feeling like I've got, I've got this mastered, I've got it dialed in is important to you. And I think if you look at or listen to the previous episode where we began this series, it's pretty important. Prospecting is a very vital part of achieving success in network marketing. And if you can't prospect, if you can't, sign up a new customer, bring in a new distributor affiliate, you're probably never going to succeed in this business. So, all right. So let's talk about the athlete's way. It's the way I wanted to phrase it for this particular episode. So what is the athlete's way to prospecting mastery? So what I want you to think about is this. Most of you at some point in your life, a great majority of people participated in sports growing up, right? Whether it was track, baseball, football, soccer, tennis, wrestling, gymnastics, whatever it was, swimming, diving, I'm not going to name them all. And when you did that, what did you do prior to the game? And this is something that I've spoken about, and honestly, I'll never shut up about this particular element to achieving mastery. Like in the previous episode, we talked about the do concept. Like you can't get good at the thing that you never do. In this case, we're talking about the elements that lead to improvement, the elements that lead to a higher degree of competency, right? A higher degree of skill set around the activity, in this case, the activity of prospecting. And again, you saw this or heard this in the last video, the higher the competence, the higher the skill set, the higher the confidence. And if you're high in confidence, you're gonna not shy away from doing the activity. And so this is another thing. So I'm gonna use a golf analogy. So I live on a golf course. I live on the 17th fairway of a golf course. And if I never got on the actual course and played golf, I would never have that experience of dealing with, the different shapes of shots and the different angles and all of that, the different distances, hitting out of the sand, hitting out of the trees, hitting out of the fairway, hitting out of the rough or whatever. Would never have those experiences. I could kind of fake those experiences, however, or prepare myself for those experiences by doing what? By going to the practice facility. Right, by going to the practice range. And I will tell you, as a golfer, in order for me, and I've played golf for, I've played golf for over 30 years, okay? In order for me to have a good round of golf, I can't just run up to the first tee and, grab my driver out or whatever, club I was using for that hole and swing. I know it's not going to work out well for me, okay? I know, because I've done this a long time. But what does work out well for me is, and I do this if I'm going to play a round of golf, I will show up to the golf course at least an hour before my tee time, and I will go to the practice facility, and I will start to warm up. And I warm up with first starting out with, very short swings, like with a wedge in my hand, and do a few of those. And then I will take another club out that's a little bit for longer distance, and I'll lengthen my swing. And I start to get, for me, it's starting to get my back fluid so I can make the rotation that's necessary in a golf move, right? And I'm not going to sit here and talk about golf during this entire episode, but I think using analogies is good because practice is what prepares you for the game. And the reason why I continue over and over again to do episodes or mention the concept of practice, which is what athletes do, is because it is one of the key things that's going to lead you to getting better at whatever it is that you're doing. If all I did was went to the golf course, all I did was I went to the golf course and I went to the first tee and I played golf, I would never give myself the opportunity to start to fix things that are wrong with my golf swing. But on the practice range, I'm not in the middle of a game of golf. I can, if I'm not hitting it great, I can step off I can start to make changes so that when I'm going onto the golf course, I'm more prepared to have a better experience or a better round of golf. And people in network marketing all around the world where I've spoken, they're like wanting to get good. And then when I ask the question, and it's boggling to me, the sheer numbers of people who literally spend zero time practicing. Like I think for a lot of networkers, like they when they're brand new, they're given a script and they might read the script a few times and they practice it until they kind of get the gist of what you might say on the phone or reaching out to somebody, and then they go for it. And that's great that they're going for it, and that's one way of learning, but the real way of preparing yourself is through practice. And it gives you the ability to accelerate the learning experience. So like, and here's an interesting example. Like I was at the practice, interestingly enough, I was at my kid's soccer practice, and I was on the sidelines with this other dad. He had a Seattle Seahawks hat on, and this was when I was living in Scottsdale, and we were chatting, and I was like, oh, you got your kid out there? Yeah, that's my daughter out there. I'm like, cool. I'm like, you from Seattle? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what are you doing down here? And he said, oh, I'm playing golf. I'm like, oh. But his kid's like on the soccer, so wait a minute. So I'm thinking, you're down here to play golf. He's not on vacation. I'm like, so are you professional? He's like, yeah. I'm like, PGA? He goes, yeah. I'm like, okay. I go, what's your name? And he goes, Richard Lee. And I go, oh my gosh, Richard Lee. I go, I was watching you on Saturday against Jordan Spieth. And he's like, yeah, I blew up on Sunday. And I go, oh, I'm sorry. But I was really fascinated because this guy was pretty young. I think at the time, I don't know if he was either 27 or 24. This is about I don't know, 8 years ago I met him. And I said, I go, when did you start playing golf? And he said, I never touched a golf club until I was 14. I was like, wow, interesting. So you never touched a golf. So 14, I think he was 14. I think he was 20, 24 or 27. I can't recall. But from the first point of touching a golf club to being on the PGA Tour was 9 years. And I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, just to give you some perspective, there's like 91 million people on planet Earth that play golf. Less than 5% of all golfers ever shoot a single round of under 100. And there's only, I don't know the exact number, but there's only like 220 players that play on the PGA Tour in a given year. That means these are the best players in the world. And I was like very curious. I was like, how did you get so good so fast? And he said, and he just looked at me without hesitation. He goes, I love to practice. He goes, every day I'd leave, get home from school, I'd be at the golf course, I'd be chipping, I'd be putting, I'd be practicing. He goes, I'm a fiend for practice. And what a great example. I mean, here's a guy who didn't touch a club, first time he touched a club was age 14, 9 years later, he's one of the top 200 plus golfers in the world. And he did that through practice. So there's a good example that practice works. And then the other part of it is, if we're really being like dumb here, think about when you grew up playing whatever you played. Let's say, like I grew up playing soccer. We didn't just show up on Saturday and jump on the field and take our positions. We practiced all week. We practiced on Monday and we practiced on Wednesday. We'd have like 2 or 3 practices a week preparing yourself for the game. Could you imagine if it was just a bunch of kids and they show up for the game on Saturday? You don't even understand the game because you never really practiced the game. You don't know, hey, where do I stand? Where do I go? What do I do? It would be like total pandemonium and confusion. And so that as a person, an athlete that played sports, it's the same application here, right? How you get good at one thing is how you get good at everything. And there are different elements to getting good. That's why I'm doing this series. So the first element is you get good by doing. That's what we talked about last week, and that the elements of experiential learning. In this case, practice to me is so paramount because it prepares you for what's going to happen in real life. How do you know how to handle somebody who says, how much money are you making? If you've never practiced that, or somebody says, well, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I need to think about it, I need to talk to such and such, or I don't like sales, or I tried one of those things and it didn't work for me, or whatever element to the experience, wouldn't it be better for you if you've practiced that over and over and over and over again, so when somebody throws you a curveball, you're able to actually hit it versus somebody, you've never seen a curveball come at you playing baseball and the ball starts here and it ends up over here. Well, if you practice hitting a curveball, at your practice and somebody's throwing curves at you, you're gonna understand that that's a curve coming at you and you're gonna be able to put the bat on the ball, right? That's what baseball players do. They're gonna practice how to hit a fastball, how to hit a curveball, how to hit a knuckleball. That's in terms of batting practice, it's not just, the thing right down the middle of the plate. Anybody can do that, even if they don't play baseball. I mean, unless it's 95 miles an hour, it's probably hard to hit, but you get the drift. So my question to you, honestly, is how much time do you personally incorporate practice into your week where you have dedicated time set aside specifically for working on your craft? In this case, the craft of prospecting. And is that part of your culture? Like, it's fascinating to me because for the most part, most of the companies, organizations I've spoken for, it's not part of their culture. I grew up in a culture where we practiced all the time. Like we didn't have super Saturday trainings. We had trainings every Saturday. And we would spend a couple of hours every Saturday literally in practice mode. We would practice how to demonstrate our products. We would practice prospecting with a group of 3, me, the distributor, you, the prospect, number 3, the observer, and switch around and try these different experiences. And in fact, I was playing golf with a CEO of a pretty big company who grew up in the 80s working for IBM. And IBM was known for having one of the best sales training programs of any company that's ever existed around the globe. And we were talking about it, and a lot of those guys that were like IBM sales guys way back in the day became CEOs, CFOs, CMOs of major corporations because they came out of a culture that was so ingrained to teach and really understood the concept of helping people to become exceptional at in this case, the craft of selling, right? And so he actually explained to me while we were playing golf how, what they did as a company. And one of the things that they did is they would have these observation rooms where behind like a 2-way mirror or 1-way mirror, whatever it's called, they would have a group of salespeople behind the mirror, and then in the other room, you would have the salesperson and the prospect, engaging in this conversation, and they would be observing and taking notes, and they were providing feedback, and they were recording the whole thing. And I'm like, man, if we had more network marketers doing that, we'd be raising, hundreds of thousands of amazing people that are making our profession look grand, and it is grand. But we all know people who have got a misconception or a bad taste in their mouth about network marketing because they had somebody who wouldn't shut up, or just like, blah, 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 yeah, you don't get it, we're going to be rich, or whatever they're saying, and they spoil it and they make the profession look bad because they're just not doing things in a cool way. But if we're teaching people how to be exceptional at this business, we're gonna create a perception, an image about network marketing for the general public that they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. And then and regardless of that, you just getting yourself like sharpening your saw, right? This whole series is about sharpening your saw. It's about making yourself more efficient. Like when in the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey talks about this story of this guy. I'm not going to go in the story, but I'll use this example. Have you ever been in the kitchen and you were cutting slices of a tomato, but you had a dull knife and you're like, it won't even cut through the skin, right? You're mushing the tomato, but then you put the knife on the knife sharpener and all of a sudden you're able to just easily cut these like super thin slices of tomato. Why? Because the edge of the knife is very sharp. So what you've got to do with you is sharpen your edge, sharpen your saw, make you so that you're so good at this business that you become more efficient so that the time that you're putting in is producing a greater result, right? Because not everybody's created equal. Some are exceptional at this game and some are not. But the great news is it's all learnable. Everything that we do in this business, you can progress and improve so that the results in the future that you're getting are greater with the time that you're putting in than you did in the past. Does that make sense? I think it does. So anyhow, practice, practice, practice. Very important element. Ask yourself, am I practicing? Do we have a culture of practice in our community? If you don't, maybe it's time to do it. So, all right. So that's the next little element on mastery, prospecting mastery. And hope you're enjoying the beginning of this series. And if you're on my YouTube channel, what's up, YouTubers? Appreciate you guys. And my podcasters as well, listening to me on audio. Thank you so much. Details on this episode and other stuff is at toddfalcone.com/episode 170. Again, TODDFALCONE.com/episode 170. We'll see you soon.